These days, you can be the smartest guy in the room, the most qualified, and no one cares. Unless you're flying around with a cape or shooting lasers with your hands, no one will even listen. Well, I've got a cape and lasers. With our technology and with Edith, I can be the greatest hero on Earth.
Is it Spider-Man Far From Home?
That's it. Good old Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
Non mi piace il feeling. Spirito Santo. I think this just might be my masterpiece.
Welcome to Season 2, Episode 7 of the Average Joe's Movie Clubcast. This is Justin.
And I'm Joey.
And in this episode, we're catching up on some classics. And it's a couple I think it's fair to say that people don't really talk about enough. We're starting off with the iconic pairing of Humphrey Bogart and Audrey Hepburn in Billy Wilder's Sabrina from 1954. And then we're traveling down south of the border to investigate some shady dealings with some police officers in Orson Welles' crime noir Touch of Evil from 1958.
And as a heads up, as always, we do discuss our full thoughts on the film. So if you haven't seen these movies and don't want any spoilers, please skip ahead to avoid them.
And if you want to be a part of the club, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We'd love to hear from you by leaving a comment, rate us, review us, anything. We are here for you. But at the end of the day, it's all about me and Joey having some fun talking about movies. So before we get into those movies, let's do some catching up, see what we've been watching, and yeah. So Joey, how you been?
I can't complain too much, man. Let's see. I finished playing Ghost of Tsushima, the new samurai game that came out, and so that was a lot of fun. A lot of cinematic stuff in that one, a lot of odes to Kurosawa.
Yeah.
Yep. So I finished that. That was a lot of fun. So I had a little bit more time on my hands, so I actually did watch a few more movies in between the last episode and this one. So there was that. I went to Second and Charles again, but actually only left with 2 movies this time. Didn't really have any steelbooks or anything pop out to me too much, but I did leave with a Blu-ray copy of Breakfast at Tiffany's, so we can keep that Audrey theme going.
All right.
Yeah.
Been too long since I've seen that.
That was like 2 years ago when I did my big countdown to 1,000, and now I'm about to close in on 1,400. So.
Yeah, I'm surprised when that happened to jump into whenever I was watching a lot of classic movies in high school, I was mostly watching Best Picture winners, but yeah, for some reason, Breakfast at Tiffany's did go into the rotation, so I've seen that, but although it's been forever.
Yeah. And then I had this weekend that just passed, which part of the reason I think we're a little bit later recording is I had 2 friends from Charlotte come down. One stayed one night, and the other one was him over the whole weekend. So I was hanging out with them doing stuff. So that was a fun time. Had some adult beverages one night, so good times.
Nice. Yep, I got my big old beer and a stein going on. Usually I would get a darker beer, but I opted to get Mick Ultra, and yeah, it works. It's cold.
yeah, that's yeah, it gets the job done. So I have I have a beer of a different variety for the evening. One might like to call it a sarsaparilla, perhaps.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, those are good.
yeah, but
That was like the one of the main drinks in Fallout, wasn't it? Sunset sarsaparilla.
oh yeah, I've never really played any Fallout, so I wouldn't know. But I think it's the end of Back to the Future 3, and they're like, "He's been drinking sarsaparilla," and they're like, "No, he's got a whiskey, but he hadn't touched it."
Oh. Yeah, I'm coming out. Yeah, another reason why we're a little late this time around. Yeah, I came out of the busiest weekend of the year. For me, our family just has wall to wall birthdays come August. Mine, my wife's, my father in law, my niece, my aunt, my sister, all born in August. So on Friday, yeah, we celebrated my niece's sweet 16 with a pretty fun pool party, pizza party deal. Um, Saturday, we celebrated Christina's, my wife's birthday, and her father's birthday with a rib feast. And then
Bro,
I,
that I saw some pictures of that spread, dude. I was like, that is a lot of food. That
yeah,
was
my
that was like a
mother-in-law prides
lot of
herself
food.
on throwing a hell of a party, and she does succeed. And then I will never forget my anniversary because my anniversary is the day after my wife's birthday. So it's a little stressful, getting something nice prepared for a birthday anniversary combo. But we've been married for about 12 years now, so or we have been married for 12 years, so it's not quite as intense. Actually, on our 10-year anniversary, I edited a video of like all our like Facebook pictures together, and yeah, I kind of pulled that up and kind of did the trick. I had some of our wedding video sliced in there, so yeah, did the trick. Yeah, we ate at a. It's kind of funny. There's this. If you go to downtown Charleston, they're known for their really fancy restaurants, real expensive restaurants, which we've been to a number of them now over the years. Never been to Hall's Chop House, Hall's Steakhouse, something like that. But recently in the Charleston area, the northern part of the Charleston area, there's this kind of a housing development called Nexton, and they've actually been setting up some really nice restaurants up there. So they actually built another Hall's Chop House, which is like a downtown Charleston level steakhouse, up in the Somerville area. So we checked that place out. Definitely costs as much as downtown, but not nearly the drive. They talked me into I was going to get the bone-in wet ribeye, but they talked me into the dry-aged ribeye, and there's something about a dry-aged steak. It just has this whole other level of flavor. That was just awesome. And yeah, fantastic meal there. Some good drinks, lots of good sides, good meal, good anniversary. So, and my parents watched the kids. So, yep, we kind of had the evening to ourselves.
So when you got home, y'all just watched a bunch of movies, right?
We did watch one movie, which I was like shocked that she actually liked. We had gotten a recommendation to watch this movie on Netflix called Wrong Molly, which is very, very raunchy. And at the end, I was just like, well, that was meh. And she's like, I thought it was really good. I was like, I can never predict your taste in movies, hon. And actually, this summer I used to be really into board games as a kid and kind of had fallen away from that, in favor of watching more movies. But this summer, there's this game called Quirkle, which is it's kind of like Scrabble but with shapes and colors. And yeah, we played a little bit of that. Just me and her. Usually my son likes to play it, but yeah, at every party this summer I've whipped out Quirkle and showed a few people to play, and definitely recommend that game.
Nice. Sounds like it was a good time.
Yeah. And if you haven't seen already on the channel, we posted a Criterion Hall video last week. It was the first time I appeared on camera. I probably should have noted in the video that, Joey has appeared on camera many a time talking about some of the movies he's pulled in. But yeah, very good to see that. I think 45 hits on that, and we got 2 new subscribers. Really appreciate all that additional support. And if you're listening right now and you haven't subscribed to the channel on YouTube, please do so. We want to get over that 100 member mark, and maybe we'll keep growing from there. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yes, please do. It would be really cool. I mean, we really aren't in this to like make money or anything, because if that's the case, then we'd be really far behind. But
Yeah,
we do this just because we love talking about movies, and this is how we get to catch up with each other, and
hmm
we just do it because we love to, really. So,
I would vow that I'm not going to jump on. A lot of podcasts get on Patreon, and I'm not even going to touch that unless somebody's like, hey, I want to support you on Patreon. Until that point comes, I'm totally fine, just doing this as a hobby. It's definitely, I mean, I was definitely always busy with just going on Letterboxd, but yeah, throwing the podcast into it, I mean, it just kind of, it's more work, but at the same time, it allows us to talk movies in a whole different way, which I think is good. Because there's one thing to write about a movie, and there's a whole different side to talking about it. So,
for
right.
sure.
And then, my days of sleeping in are coming to an end. My little 3-year-old Gannon starts pre-K in a couple days, so that means I'll be up at 7 o'clock every morning driving him to school. So, might still be quarantined, but sleep schedule is going back to the school schedule, which, got dislodged back in March, which a lot of people complained about, but, the sleeping in a little bit was quite nice.
All right, so you guys are sending them to actual school. Y'all aren't doing virtual school anymore?
We're going to do actual school as long as we can, because me and Christina are not certified teachers, and as long as they can be in class with a teacher, that is what we're going to opt for. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's some risks involved, but our kids are just really don't focus when they're at home. They need that competitive classroom environment. So yeah, that's what we're gonna go with.
I got you. I mean, I guess, and your wife's a nurse, right? So like.
Yeah,
I guess
overnight
she knows
nurse.
how to-
So yeah, she's about it. I mean, we know how to explain the stuff. I mean, I've explained the parts of a sentence to my kid more times than I can remember this summer, and it just does not sink in whenever he has Fortnite on the brain. So there you go.
Oh yeah, me being on the PlayStation a lot more now, playing like Ghost. I see you on there, and it's like Fortnite. I'm like, oh well, Justin's kid is playing Fortnite.
There you go.
So, but I was thinking more, when they come home, she would probably be able to like check for symptoms or what have you a little more easily than a person who's not a medical person is more what I was getting at. But,
well, at the schools, it's pretty much the case where as soon as they walk into the school, they get like their temperature taken. So they're staying on the ball with kind of spotting any possible flu-like symptoms that might ward that off before it gets what it is, COVID. So
yeah.
All right, Joey, I think it's your turn for the movie night pick'em game. What you got for me?
All right, so to keep in kind of the same vein of what we're doing here, on this episode with some classics, I'm gonna do some classic monster movies. Yeah. So, would you rather watch OG King Kong or OG Godzilla?
Good question. I know I'd rather watch a lot of other OG Godzillas, not particularly the original. Gosh, King Kong or Godzilla? I'm going to do a little bit of a cheater. I haven't seen the Americanized version of the original Godzilla. I've only seen the Japanese, so I would watch the Americanized version of Godzilla. That would be my pick.
Okay, I'll let that go. I think seeing as I seen Godzilla not that long ago, but I've never seen King Kong. I will definitely.
I should give you the password to my my YouTube account. I have, whenever Filmstruck folded, they gave me a couple digital copies of some classic movies, and King Kong was one of them. So yeah, if you need access to King Kong, you can use my YouTube account to check that out.
I'll let you know. I think Carl actually bought that on Prime. Okay. So I think we have that because he watched that not that long ago. But actually, when I was looking through your stuff to do this, I just noticed how many more classic movies you've watched than me. But like the joke when I moved in was that like when I started doing Letterboxd, and like Carl was looking through mine, was that I had like barely watched any movies like pre 1975 that weren't like Disney Star Wars. It wasn't like Star Wars. Yes, I have admitted very often that I'm a basic bitch. That was the theme of this past weekend, and I will openly admit it. And yes, I like pumpkin spice lattes for anybody that's listening, but that's because I grew up.
Nothing wrong with that. Coffee's coffee.
Well, it's like the only coffee that I like. I grew up eating pumpkin pie on my plate at dinner, like all throughout the year, so everybody can just, they can just get off it. But yeah, like my pre-1975 movies before I lived here were like Disney movies and like a couple of Charlton Heston movies and like Rocky and like Star Wars or whatever. So yeah, or I guess Star Wars was 77, so it was like pre-80s movies or whatever. Yeah, and like The Godfather. But that's expanded a lot and still expanding. So.
All right. Speaking of movies, let's get into what we've been watching lately with the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right. So my categories for this week or this episode are Blast from the Past, Today, Tomorrow, it's all the same, and Triple Threat of Disappointment.
All right, I've got the Wonderful Homage, I've got Hilarious, and I've got Better Than Expected.
All right. I guess I'll let you go first. What was Hilarious?
Hilarious actually is the movie I watched earlier tonight, just a couple of hours ago now. And that is from the Coens. That's Burn After Reading. So it's one I've been wanting to watch for a while now, and just was like, I'll watch a movie tonight, and was kind of deciding, which ones I wanted to watch, and I was like, I'm gonna throw this in. And dude, everybody in that movie was great. And I know you've seen it, so.
Been a long time, but I do remember Brad Pitt doing his dance and Frances McDormand being all suspicious, and I think it's John Malkovich being like, "What the hell are these people doing?"
Dude, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, I'd never really seen John Malkovich in anything really that I could remember until this year, when I was seeing two movies of him in. One of them being that, as you like to keep calling it, that Vin Diesel movie. And dude, he's freaking great. And my only regret of this movie was that him and J.K. Simmons weren't on the screen enough, and they weren't on the screen together. Because that's all I wanted. You give me a movie with those two on the screen together, and I'm in. I'm sold. I don't even give a fuck what it's about. I'll watch it. I'm in. This movie was fantastic. If you haven't seen it, what I should tell you what it's about is in a gym, some people find a missing CD, a burnt CD with some missing CIA documents burnt onto it, and then people try to blackmail the guy, and the guy is John Malkovich, into giving it back to him, and that's Frances McDormand and Brad Pitt, and insanity ensues. Tilda Swinton's also in it. George Clooney's in it. It's great. I highly recommend it.
Awesome.
All right. Let's go with Today, Tomorrow, It's All the Same.
Okay. So I heard a lot about this new movie that came out this year, Palm Springs. And Palm Springs is basically Groundhog Day if Bill Murray had flat out just given up how to get out of that time loop. It stars Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti. Yeah, it's a really kind of fresh take on the whole time loop concept. The premise is basically that they're at this wedding, and Samberg, it's kind of clever because Samberg's actually been in the time loop for an unknown amount of time prior to him running into Christine Milioti on this one occasion. They'd actually spoilers, they'd actually gotten together prior, but we don't see that. A lot of stuff happens on camera here, or off camera here. But yeah, she gets sucked into the time loop with him, And so then, it's kind of interesting because it kind of has some of the phases of life involved, where you have like your denial, like your love, like your acceptance, your like complete another misery stage, and it's all involved, with them reliving this day over and over again, Groundhog style. They have some great chemistry together. The end's a little far fetched, but it has a good message overall. Definitely recommend checking out Palm Springs. Hadn't seen a whole lot of comedies with Andy Samberg. I'd only seen his work on SNL mostly. I really like him. For summertime, I mean, there's a lot of good shots of Andy Samberg just, chilling, having fun, drinking beer on this pizza float. J.K. Simmons is in this one as well. He has kind of an interesting character, and they even give him a full character arc. He's kind of a psychopath he's kind of a cool guy. He turns into a psychopath, and then he has the acceptance phase at the end too. So, I thought Palm Springs was a really good time.
All right. See, I was out because you're like Andy Samberg, but then you brought me back in because you said J.K. Simmons.
Oh, you're don't like the Samberg?
I like him on SNL, but I haven't really liked him in too much of anything outside of SNL. Or if he's just like a side character, I'm in. If he's the main character, I don't like him as a main character. But you said J.K. Simmons, so I'm now back in.
Yeah, it's pretty good show, pretty good comedy. Best rom-com I've seen in a while. In terms of modern ones, I've been watching a lot of classic ones, which we'll get into later. All right. Is this Wonderful Homage?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Homage
right.
has an H in it.
Oh, well, look, hit the right click button and it doesn't give me that option, so I don't know what you want from me.
There you go. Who wants to change it to image? All right, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to be a grammar Nazi.
There's a lot of wonderful images in this picture, so you know what? We'll
go with that.
Yeah. And that is Miyake's 13 Assassins, which I also misspelled, but that's because it was blacked out where I couldn't see it.
All right.
Which is an homage to Seven Assassins. Or not Seven Assassins, Jesus. Sorry. Let's try that one more again.
Seven Samurai?
Seven Samurai. That's the one. Yeah, boy. Oh, man. So it has a lot of the same thing. You got one homeboy who thinks he's the baddest dude in the town. He thinks he's the baddest dude in the town. He's a lord, and I'm just killing people. And they get a whole group of people together, and they're going to stop him, and they're overwhelmed by the size of the army, and they just go to town, and there's just crazy sword fighting, and yeah, it's and then you find out that the other dudes really, and I don't remember their names now. There's 13 of them, for crying out loud, and. Mm-hmm. It was a little while. Yeah, no. Do you want to see a more modern, badass samurai movie, brother? That's one of them for sure. Miyake's got another one, The Blade of the Immortal, that's supposed to be really good that I have not watched yet. But back earlier this year when I ordered like 9 million Arrow movies, that was one of them. So I'll check that out at some point. 13 Assassins. If you haven't seen it, want a samurai movie, highly recommend. All right.
Cool.
Let's go with Triple Threat of Disappointment.
All right. So this summer, my middle kid has been all interested in the Jaws series. So we watched the original classic and had a great time with it. And he's just like, well, I want to watch Jaws 2. And I was like, well, I guess we can watch Jaws 2. I've never seen Jaws 2. I've never wanted to see Jaws 2. So we'll watch Jaws 2. One of the big parts about the Jaws sequels is they had potential, but they really, really squandered it. In the first sequel, like, it still has, what's his name? The guy who plays Brody. That is... Oh, my goodness. Why is I'm blanking on this? You know what I'm talking about? Classic actor from All That Jazz, and he's in Oh. Roy Schneider. Roy Schneider plays Brody in the original Jaws. Okay, so Schneider is back for the sequel, and it could have really been an interesting movie about like him having like postpartum depression from like, or having like being haunted by the fact that this shark is there. And there's one scene that captures that pretty well. But man, this shark is just showing up early and often. It's damn running down skiers in the water. It's like running into boats. It's damn ridiculous. And then the climax is plumb ridiculous too, with it chowing down into an electric cord and getting shocked to death. That's Jaws 2. Jaws 3 also had potential. It takes place in a water park. And man, they tried to do the 3D thing with this movie, and it just does not work whatsoever. There's like green screen, and when you're looking at it, it's all fuzzy and really, really, really fake looking. The shark is super fake looking in this. It's like going back and forth really quickly. And yeah, Jaws 3 is a technical nightmare. I guess people could consider it's one of those so bad it's good movies. And then you got Jaws 4. And Jaws 4 is just hilarious with how silly the shark attacks are. I mean, the shark is up, jumping up and biting people's arms off, and that looks ridiculous. And Brody dies off camera, and the shark tracks him down to the Bahamas, and they put a darn tracer on the shark, but they seem to not be able to trace it, even though they have a tracer on the shark. And gosh, you got Michael Caine in this one. I mean, the darn shark's just going up to boats and starting to bite the boats until they sink. It's silliness. Jaws 2, 3, and 4. I hated Jaws 2, and then I watched Jaws 3, and I didn't hate 2 as much. And then I definitely didn't hate 2 as much after I saw 4. So, yeah, those Jaws sequels, I'm glad they stopped at 4, because if they would have gone as far as they thought in Back to the Future, we might be in a world of hurt.
It sounds like they just went off the rails real quickly.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, 2's really not as bad as the other ones in perspective, but at the same time, yeah, there's definitely some squander potential compared to like how like fantastic Spielberg did with the original. All right, so that leaves us with Better Than Expected, right?
Yes, Better Than Expected, and that is Charlie's Angels, and that's the 2019 one,
Okay.
not the 2000.
Kristen Stewart.
Yeah, Kristen Stewart and all of them girls. The Kristen Stewart and the new Pink Ranger, and the new / Jasmine and Elizabeth Banks. Which of course I'm a sucker for Elizabeth Banks. She's awesome. So I like movies where girls kick ass. This movie's got 4 girls kicking ass. Plus it's got Patrick Stewart. It's not a great movie. Like I'm not trying to like be like, yo, this movie is great. But you just want a movie where you can just kind of chill and not really have to worry about anything. This is the one. Like, so it was like I said, it was a lot better than I was expecting, because I went I put my Fire Stick on, and it was like, oh, this movie's on Stars right now, and I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of wanted to watch that. It's free, sure, cool, we'll watch it. And like I said, I was pleasantly surprised. So you want to see some ladies in a bunch of different costumes in different places all over the world fighting some bad guys. There you go. That's it in a nutshell.
All right.
So, and the end has like a bunch of cameos. I wasn't a super big fan of the soundtrack. There was a lot of newer music that didn't really suit my taste, but I would imagine there are some people that would be down on that. Like the song that was the titular song, I think, was Ariana Grande, so I'm sure people would like that. But they put out there were a bunch of cameos at the end, like Ronda Rousey and Danica Patrick, and so
Cool beans. Not sure if I'll see that, but yeah, who knows?
Well, that doesn't really seem like your cup of tea, but
Me and my wife's first date was to see the original reboot of Charlie's Angels when it came out in, gosh, what was that? Probably 2000? 1999 maybe?
Somewhere in that range.
Cameron Diaz, Lucy Liu, Drew Barrymore.
Yep, Lucy Liu.
I think Bill Murray was Charlie in that, wasn't he?
Yeah, and in the second one it was Bernie Mac?
No?
Charlie's Angels Full Throttle? Yeah.
Cool.
So,
All right.
Those three have a kind of a cameo. They show them they show them in pictures and that. So it is like connected to those. All right, so all you have left is Blast from the Past, which I guess is the theme of this episode.
All right. Sweet, sweet baby, sweet, sweet, don't let me go. Shimmy, shimmy, cocoa pop, shimmy, shimmy, rock. Shimmy, shimmy, cocoa pop, shimmy, shimmy, rock. So I saw Tom Hanks and Big. And I hadn't seen this guy and I hadn't seen this movie since I was a kid. And man, it blew my socks off. So I was inspired to watch this movie with my kid because he thinks he's too cool for school. And he's just like, man, Dad, whenever I have a place of my own, I'm going to have my own game system and I'm going to do whatever I want, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, okay, let's watch a movie about a kid that gets to do that with Big. And gosh, man, the life, like, I summed it up, I think, best in my lead up to in my review that, man, the paradox of life is whenever you're a kid, you're looking forward, you want to be big, you want to be able to do all the stuff adults do. And then when you get to be an adult, you're like, man, I just want to be a kid again with no responsibilities. And man, this movie perfectly like encapsulates that. And it's really strange. It kind of starts off as like a family comedy and it kind of turns into a rom-com because there's like a love interest. And then there's a little bit of weirdness with like, you know, the kid in an adult body, you know, becoming involved with a woman. But I mean, later on in the film, there's this great, like, there's like a turning point for him where he actually does start to act like an adult and like come up with projects of his own. You have the iconic piano scene where they're in the toy store with him and his boss, and that gets him a promotion. And yeah, then once he starts acting more like an adult, you know, he kind of looks back and says, man, I really want to go back to be a kid. And, you know, that's how it wraps up with the Zolthar machine in the front and the back. And gosh, I mean, watching it as a kid and now watching it now, man, this is a movie you can truly, truly grow with. Tom Hanks, the entire movie, you know, he just comes off like he's a kid in an adult's body. And Big is fantastic. You seen it?
Nice. No, I have not seen that since I was very young. Probably 7 or 8, maybe 9. I don't know. I was young. It's been a long time. Like, you're sitting there talking about, I'm like, yeah, I remember this movie, but it's been forever.
Yeah, I gave on Letterboxd. I gave it the tag of a movie that I rewatched that I pretty much felt like I was watching it all over again because I only remembered the beginning and the end. The entire middle part is very hazy. And I mean, it's a little convoluted, the fact that like whenever he tries to tell his mother that, you know, if something has happened, his mother is just freaking out and he has to just get out and he goes up to the city and he figures out how to make a life for himself. And so that's the premise. Yeah, really, really, really good 80s movie that, yeah, it got me in the feels, and that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, I watched a lot of movies. Some more shout outs to movies I watched lately that blew my socks off. I rewatched Children of Men, and that was fantastic. I saw Spotlight for the first time, and that was fantastic. That I was just broke after Spotlight. That's a very emotional film I found. Yeah, check all our reviews out on Letterboxd to hear more about, you know, our movie thoughts. We try to the shows are long enough as it is, so we only briefly touch on the other movies we watch. So now to our feature movies of this episode. We picked some classic movies we had never seen before. Classic movies is definitely classic books, literature. The word classic just kind of, it's always attracted me. Like, I've always wanted to read War and Peace. I've never read it, but I've seen the movie now. Yeah, I'm just not the best reader. I listened to a lot of audiobooks a few years ago, but man, with a film, you can generally watch a film within, you know, a couple hours and you've taken it in. So I definitely favor taking in classic films over books. But yeah, I think we're going to talk about a few of the classics we have yet to see. You want to start us off?
Yeah, I'm going to name a few. I had a pretty decent list, and looking at your list, where we had a bunch that were similar, so I kind of changed it up a little bit.
Okay.
So Actually, I'm gonna start with the one that this movie was originally, and that's Gone with the Wind.
Okay.
Never seen that. Roman Holiday,
Okay.
Vertigo, Maltese Falcon, North by Northwest, Raging Bull, City Lights. I mean, I could probably name tons and tons more, but
Have you
like
seen
I
any
said,
other Chaplins?
I've only seen the one.
Modern Times?
That's it. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Some of the ones I hadn't seen before. I was really little, and My Fair Lady started playing on the TV, and I just went to bed. One of these days I'll have to see My Fair Lady. That's also a Best Picture winner. I keep putting off Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Got to watch that one of these days. Still have not seen Rebel Without a Cause. And all of these movies are like very, very high up on my watch list. So hopefully, I'll watch these very soon, and I'm not going to put them off too much longer. Haven't seen a lot of the classic comedy duos like the Marx Brothers, Duck Soup. Haven't seen that before. Need to check that out. And then I think Bogey is in this other movie, The African Queen. I've heard a lot about that. Haven't seen The African Queen yet. So I've checked a whole lot off my list in the last couple of years, though. I hadn't seen a lot of these Billy Wilder films, the original King Kong. I've just been checking them off one by one. I have this, if you go to my letterbox and there's a tag, it's called Catching Up with the Classics. A lot of the movies from the past that I just never got to, and now I'm getting to. So, and I've been really, really hooked into classic comedies lately, but we'll get more into that in a little bit. All right, so without any further ado, let's get into our first movie of tonight. And that's Joey's pick, Sabrina, from 1954. Joey, would you like to tell us what this movie is about?
a playboy becomes interested in the daughter of his family's chauffeur, but it's his more serious brother who would be the better man for her. So I mean that kind of sums it up a little bit, but yeah, essentially.
Yeah, just the surface level. So what'd you think of this one? I saw you throwing a lot of praise at it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely loved it, adored it, which is not surprising as this was my third Audrey Hepburn movie, like my second Humphrey Bogart movie, and my first Bogey movie was Casablanca, and I did an unboxing this. I spent like $60 on a collector's edition of that movie, so obviously I loved it, and I saw that in 2018, and it was in like my top 5 movies of that year. It was like real high. I want to say it was maybe like number 3, maybe. It was real high, so I love that movie.
Okay.
And also, as was Breakfast at Tiffany's, which was my first Audrey movie, and I love that movie too. It was also in like my top 5 movies from that year. So yeah, no, I put the two of these together, and it was like bound for me to just fall in love with this movie automatically.
How did this one stack up against Charade?
And Charade, it was, oh man, that was so good as well, because it's like a caper movie, and this is just it's a
rom-com.
It's a rom-com, so it's kind of different. I think right now this is my favorite Audrey movie right now. Like,
oh,
I mean,
high praise.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it knocked down and took out the mighty Whiplash that had been strangleholding the number 1 spot for this year. So
I'm dying to hear more about why that is. So we'll get there. Okay. Anyways, I'm pretty glad you picked another classic comedy. I've seen quite a few of them this summer. I've been watching listening to this AFI podcast about these two people going through all the 100 AFI picks, and so they mentioned a lot of classic rom-coms. I was like, oh, I need a lot of these are on Criterion. I should finally check them out. It Happened One Night. That was probably my favorite one. That has Humphrey Bogart in it. Sullivan's Travels is really good. The Lady Eve, wasn't quite a fan of that one. The Philadelphia Story also wasn't that into that. They call both of those rom-coms, but I don't know. I would beg to differ. And then I even saw a more modern one with Joe versus the Volcano, which actually led into me watching Big. So yeah, I've been watching a lot of classic comedy this summer, and I would say this would probably fall in my top three of within what I just listed. Oh,
Nothing wrong there.
all right. I guess I can kick us off with a few of my notes. Kind of watching back through it to kind of refresh my memory. I thought it was really clever. There's a scene towards the beginning where I think the shot is on a family portrait, and you see that Bogey's character Linus is much older than his younger brother David, and I think it zooms out, and you see them taking a new family portrait, and kind of David kind of sitting in a goofy way with like in a chair backwards. But yeah, I think that was a great way of kind of distinguishing the age gap between the brothers.
I mean, I think they even tell you, like in the opening, that he's much older. And then later in the movie, they mention something about their age difference in some form or fashion. That there's like about a 10-year age difference or something in that ballpark in some way or form.
Gotcha. I guess the elephant in the room would be talking about the marvelous Audrey Hepburn. Yeah, she's the slender beauty in this. She's the chauffeur's daughter, like you mentioned in the synopsis, and she's totally in love with David. And in the beginning of the movie, she's really on the outskirts of this lifestyle that they have here and this big estate that they own. And she's really envious of the parties they throw, and she's kind of on the outskirts. Joey, tell us all about your burning passion for Miss Hepburn.
I mean, it's definitely like a newfound thing, because like I said, I'd never even seen one of her movies till just a couple of years ago. But I mean, she's like, I don't know, do you have freaking eyes? Like, she's gorgeous. Like anybody that sees one of these movies, like, she's gorgeous. I haven't really seen any of the movies yet where she plays like the ugly duckling. Like in this, it's not so much that she's the ugly duckling that they don't want her. She's just beneath their status more than she's the ugly duckling kind of thing. But like I don't know. It's just not only is she obviously gorgeous, but it's just in the movies that I've seen, it's the way she carries herself and comes across, and it's just like, bruh, like.
Yeah, she definitely lights up a room. Some of the attributes I listed, man, her eyes are just huge and delightful. That perky ponytail, huge smile.
Yeah,
man, her posture. I mean, she's like walking around. It almost looks like she has a board up her back. She's like so upright and looking confident, and yeah, she's just a delight on screen.
It's definitely the eyes and the smile. And when you think of Hollywood starlets, that's what you think of. Like, her, and I haven't seen, I've only seen pictures. Like, I've never really seen a lot of movies. I've only seen the one movie, and it was a bit part with Marilyn, but that's Hollywood starlets. Like, that's what you think of. And like, of course, the actresses that are in Hollywood today are all sorts of beautiful and gorgeous. But like, there's just something about Audrey Hepburn. It's just like, dude.
Yeah, I mean, with the fact that older movies can feel a little, old-timey, when a woman in one of these movies really shines through it being a black and white movie, and her, her sparkle just, resonates past that. I mean, there was something special there.
Yeah, I mean, even in the second movie, A Touch of Evil, I don't remember her name, but I know she was in Psycho. Yeah, like I was just like, man, that's like
Janet Leigh.
Yeah, that's it. Homegirl from Halloween's mom.
Right. Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah. She's also just insanely gorgeous, and it's like she just stands out. But yeah, so it's just whoa. Just whoa. That's all I got on that subject, I guess.
Yeah, and in the beginning, David really has no idea that Sabrina even exists. He's flirting with his blonde girlfriend, walks right past Sabrina, and she's just like, oh, he doesn't even know that I'm here. And then she goes up to her apartment, and I got the biggest kick out of this because she sits down in this rocking chair, and This is like the exact same rocking chair my parents had whenever I was a kid. I was just like, I know that rocking chair. Just little detail like that just really kind of, made me remember when I was a kid, this little similar piece of furniture. But man, this movie gets really dark after that because Sabrina goes in this, what I would say maybe a 10-car garage, and she turns all those engines on and shuts the doors, and she wants to commit suicide. And kind of watching it back, it's a little quirky because she's just like, oh, well, maybe I'll vent a window and get a little bit of air while I die.
Yeah, that's the, oh, I've made a mistake.
Yeah.
Because that kind of defeats the whole purpose of what you had going on here, Sabrina.
Yeah. And Bogey rushes in. He's just like, what were you doing there? And yeah, he kind of treats her like a kid. He like throws her up over his shoulder and brings her back up to her apartment. And before we know it, Sabrina is off in Paris. I guess kind of getting over this little episode.
Well, I mean, I think she was already, well, it's not, I think she was already supposed to be going to France to go to cooking school. So,
Okay.
yeah, they just never mentioned as I remember saying this out loud, I was like, they're not going to talk about the note she left her dad. Just,
Oh, yeah, there was a suicide note.
yeah, and it was just,
Don't let David
no.
come to the funeral. Even in death,
Yeah.
she'd be embarrassed.
Yeah, well, he wouldn't cry anyway because he doesn't know I exist.
Mm-hmm.
And then, she goes to France and starts learning to cook and all that
Yeah.
good stuff.
I think that was one of my favorite scenes of the movie. Yeah, we got this kind of Julia Childs style French cooking scene where he's like, you break the egg, you put it in the bowl.
It's all in the wrist.
All in the wrist. Yeah, the cooking scene was a delight. That's definitely where
It was
an
a
area.
delete.
And we'll delete that comment and go with delight. And yeah, that I mean,
Right up there with homage with an H. Fromage.
yeah, there you go.
Omelette de
Recording this
fromage.
very late at night. Not that really matters. I function probably better at night. But yeah, that was, for being a rom-com, I would say this is one of the funniest parts, with her being kind of the delightful little screw up in the class that takes a long time to come around. And it's not until she the Santa Claus looking guy takes an interest in her where
Yes.
it finally starts to
He's got
click in.
He's got some sort of title or something. He's got, I can't remember, but he's
A baron or something.
Yeah, that sounds right. A baron, because she's writing notes back to her parents, and they're all like, "What does she have to say about David?" And of course, the whole time David's all being his playboy self, and then
Oh yeah, I guess that hints back to the synopsis with David being Playboy. I didn't really think about that, but yeah, that's definitely a major element where David's been like divorced several times.
I think he'd been divorced 2, 3
Something like
times.
that.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's in the paper that David's getting married, and he comes in all full of piss and vinegar at Bogey, and he's like, "Yo, what the hell'd you do?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I'm making this new plastic." And he's got like people jumping on this plastic like it's a trampoline.
Made of sugar cane. The strongest
Made of
plastic
sugarcane.
there is. I think it's bulletproof and
It was bulletproof, heat-proof, tasted like sugar. Like,
You
yo,
ever-
this is the greatest thing ever. Like, we need to get down on this for real.
I couldn't guarantee it, but there's a part in The Graduate where one of the guys that comes up to Dustin Hoffman's just like, "So son, have you thought about your future? Maybe a future in plastics?" And this definitely reminded me of that with like this big plastics empire they apparently have going on.
That's another classic that I've been meaning to watch. Like, I really like. That's like one I've been wanting and like meaning to watch and just haven't. Side note.
So the main drama here is David is supposed to marry this blonde named Elizabeth. I'm not sure if she's the one from early on in the film or not. Probably. She kind of looks similar.
I don't think it's the same girl. I think it's a different. I remember thinking while watching the movie that it was a different girl.
Okay. But yeah, they really want him to marry Elizabeth because I guess by them marrying, there's going to be like some kind of company merger and it's going to be really good for the family financially. So they definitely want David to stick with Elizabeth, which kind of, and whenever Sabrina comes back, I mean, that throws a whole knot into it because David, he didn't notice Sabrina at all in the beginning of the film, but man, when he passes by her about 50 yards away, he can see her at a train station. He slams on his gas, turns around, and goes and picks her up. So apparently these few, however long she's been in France, she's been doing some, beautification in his eyes.
It was like 2 years. So she grew up, so now she's like 22. And just imagine, like the full-on guy breaking his neck to look at some chick walking down the street, and then like magnify that by like 10, because that's surely what he did is he whipped that car around to go pick her up, and then she's just having the best time of it on the car ride as he's trying to figure out who she is. He's like, I know you. And she's like, oh yeah, we know each other. We're neighbors. And she's just having a ball. That scene was so great. She's just got this big smile on her face the whole time, just laughing. It was so good. And she's just like,
he doesn't even realize what house he pulls into. Hey, this is my house. It's mine too.
Yeah, she just played him like a fiddle. It was so freaking great.
I kind of felt bad for his fiance, Elizabeth, because she's a pretty great looking blonde too. But yeah, David totally swerves his attention over towards Sabrina and invites her to the party that night. And I forget what he does to get Elizabeth to go away, but he starts dancing with Sabrina.
He spilt some stuff on her dress and then was like,
"Oh,
"You need to get
that's
this
right."
out." And then another great part where he's like, "Oh, go meet me at the indoor tennis courts," and she's like, "Oh, you're gonna bring wine, aren't you? And you're gonna have the band play this song, aren't you?" And blah blah blah. And he's like,
That's what he told Sabrina, right?
Yeah. And Sabrina just starts naming off all the stuff, and he's like, "Oh, you know all my moves." She's like, "Yeah, I know everything you're gonna do."
Yeah, and so he gets some champagne glasses, and somehow or another he ends up sitting on them and cutting his ass.
Yeah, we puts him in his back pocket, and then Bogey's like, "Hey, you're needed right now." And the old man's like, their father, like, I guess was this where they were asking him why he was? They're asking him something about the plastics. They were making sure he was gonna do the wedding, or
Okay.
I don't remember exactly, but anyway, he ends up sitting down, and that's how he broke the glasses. And then Bogey ends up going to see her.
Yeah, he covers for his brother because he's got to get some glass picked out of his ass. So Bogey goes and covers for him and has a little slow dance with Sabrina. And so did that relationship? What'd you think about that? Bogey's pretty a lot older than Sabrina.
Yeah, but
it didn't bother me, but it's definitely a talking point that
I think nowadays, like, it's one of those things where a lot of people would say something. In the movie, she's 22, and like real life, she was 25, I think, is for my memory serves upon looking some stuff up. And, Bogey was 55, I think, because he was born in like 1899. And he was probably, So, it's 30 years. That's a big age difference. But Harrison Ford dated Callista Flockhart. Like, older men date younger women all the time. It's how It's been for forever. Like, it's not like she was 16 and he was 40 or 50 or anything like that, So
before I guess we move on with the Sabrina Bogey relationship or Linus, definitely note the fact that no one's happy with David wooing Sabrina. Like, her father, the chauffeur, is just like, yeah, that's not our place, being the help and, falling in love with the family. And her dad's, he's just worried about money and the merger or whatever. So he's not happy with it either. But Linus goes and covers for his brother and has a little dance with Sabrina out on the tennis court. To cover for his brother while he's recovering from his injury.
Yep, even gives her the good night kiss, and he's like, "This is for my brother." Keeps it all professional. And then because his brother's hurt and can't do anything, that's when him and Sabrina start dating. As he's basically a
spending
fill-in
some quality time together.
Yeah, he's a fill-in for David. And And this is some of the best part. Like, this is where it starts kind of where it was just took it over the top for me per se, I guess, is because Bogey's like he's like we gotta get rid of her, essentially. Maybe that's a little bit later, but he's like, we gotta get rid of her. I'm gonna make her fall in love with me, and it's kind of starts that plot point, and it's fantastic, and it's great.
Another really good slapsticky moment happens whenever Bogey, he's trying to help his brother recover. So they have this plastic hammock, and it has a hole like in the area of his butt, and so David hops up on this thing, and his butt's hanging through the hammock. It's pretty ridiculous. Another good comic scene. Man, you got to admire black and white movies in a lot of ways, and I think one of my favorites from this movie was after they go sailing. You see the silhouettes of them against the water, and yeah, the shadow use and the silhouettes. I mean, you just don't see that without black and white quite the same way.
Oh, let's talk about Bogey's car.
Okay.
And the fact that this is like 1950, and he had like a James Bond car that Daniel Craig would have been jealous of with the technology in it.
Mm-hmm.
He had like a phone.
Definitely had a phone.
He was a phone. He was making like memos in it and shit. Like what the hell? Like, that's how affluent this family is. Like, they had like the top of the line technology car. I can't even imagine how much that thing would have cost. And then when you get to their office building, it's a skyscraper, and they own like every building, like every office in it. It was crazy. It was like plastic, lumber, you just name it. Yeah, they got it. It's just like, okay, steel. Making a phone call. I'm like, how does man got a car phone in 1950? What?
It reminds me of the scene where him and Sabrina's daughter have a little chat about how he's not happy with the relationship. But all right.
You mean Sabrina's father?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Both fathers not crazy about it. So let's see here. So yeah, David recovers. He's back in the picture, and yeah, Sabrina pretty much goes instantly back to him. She's the one that he's always loved. Kind of getting close to the end here. There's a little bit of back and forth. I got a kick out of the scene where the David and Linus's father, he's really into his big stogies. He kind of tries to hide that. That's kind of fun. There's an olive at the very bottom of this little jar that he can't get out. And I really like Bogey's directness, where he just smashes the jar in order to help his dad get the olive. And yeah, so the drama kind of increases with the fact that, Bogey's plan is to ship Sabrina off to France to keep her out of the way of David ruining the deal. And they've got her tricked because there's also a ticket for him. So she's kind of wooed with the fact that, it'll be Linus. Because, I mean, she's kind of in love with both of them, I guess is the kind of the easiest way to say it.
Well, she's definitely in love with David, but I think that's her young love, and she thinks she's still in love with David, and then all that time she spent with Linus, I guess she started to develop these feelings, and I guess she doesn't want to admit that they're there. And so Linus has set this whole plan up, obviously to keep the merger in place and to ship her off, and he just straight up tells her, like, he's trying to be slick. And this is like one of the things. The thing I thought was so, like, I just love this whole thing. Like, he thought he was going to be this slick, cool, make the deal kind of dude that he is. And he was like, yeah, no, I bought 2 cabins. We're going to give you all this money, your dad all this stock. We're going to give you a car over there, which is going to be a business decision, and we're going to ship you off. And I wasn't going to be there. And then she's like, oh, okay. And then, she leaves, and he's trying to track down his brother, and he's going to give the brother the ticket, and the brother shows up and plays the same trick on him by putting it in the paper that Linus slipped off with her. And he's like, oh shit, you got me. I really do want to be with her. And it was her that played him. And that's it was it was great. I really
Yeah, kind of
really like that.
an emotional scene where they're I forgot, I skipped over some of her fashion. Yeah, she looks immaculate in that white dress during that one dance, and then later on she shows up to this like place of business, and she's like in this sleek black dress. So yeah, Audrey Hepburn really showing off some good fashion trends here.
The head
you
wrap
notice,
thing when she got back from France, when she's at the train station, when David
yeah.
like whips the car around. Yeah.
Do you notice in a lot of these romantic old movies that there's always these like kind of hazy scenes, like whenever they show like close-ups of the the characters kind of falling in love, whether like the whole shot's hazy or maybe there's kind of like a haze around them. Have you ever noticed that?
I haven't,
Oh,
or maybe I did, but I just never really paid any attention, I guess.
okay. Yeah, I notice that a lot when it comes to these old romance. They always try to make the moments a little more tender feeling by making the shot a little bit blurry on the edges. So
Um,
that's mhm.
I think I have. It's like I definitely feel like I've noticed that some in like spots of La La Land, and that whole movie is just like an homage to with an H to old Hollywood. um,
Nice.
so
One of the scenes that stands out to me is they go back to, I think it's the business, and I think she's having kind of a heart to heart with Bogey, and she decides to cook him some dinner, and then the whole like egg breaking things. There's kind of a reprise to that joke, and she's looking pretty pretty sleek in that apron she puts on to cook for him or whatever. I can't exactly remember what's going on. I know they're pretty. That might have fit in with the part you noted where she actually admits that he's not going to go with her. Does that sound right?
yeah, because that's where she sees the ticket on the table or on his desk, and that's when he tells her, he's like, no, I'm not really going. It was all just kind of like a ruse or whatever to get you out of the way for the merger. And she's like, but there's 2 tickets in your name. And he's like, I was never going to be there. I was just going to give you this amount of money and a car in France and your dad this much stock and all of this. And that's when she's like, well, I can't, I'm sorry, I can't wash your dishes or something like that. And she leaves. And
Yeah.
then he wakes up the next day, and he's like, I got it. He tells his secretary, he's like, hey, we got to find David. We got to get him on this boat. We got to we got to cancel the wedding. Send these flowers to so and so. We got to call a meeting to cancel the merger. Yada yada yada. XYZ. All these things, and that's when his brother shows up and.
Yep, they're at the board. They're at the board meetings. I think he's about to make this a big announcement. Yeah, and then David comes strolling in. And he's just like, "What are you doing here?" And he's just like, "Well, you got a boat to catch."
Yeah.
And then you have your romantic. Oh, go ahead.
And I was like, "Yeah, how crazy is it? They have like their own dock for him to get on that tugboat, for the tugboat to take him to the ocean liner."
Right. And then meets up with her on the deck, and yeah, they smooch. And that's the end of the movie. That's Sabrina for you. So you think you'll see the remake?
No, I have no desire to see this remake, like, whatsoever. Nothing against Harrison Ford. Like, Harrison Ford is fine, but like, who the fuck? And I'm sorry if you're like, who the fuck is Julia Ormond? Like, if you got, okay, I guess the idea was like, who could be in Audrey's shoes? But that remake was in the early '90s, right?
Yeah, I think it was 95, from what I remember pulling from.
Okay, so you got the first name right. Why is this not Julia Roberts? She was like the rom-com fucking queen. And you got Harrison Ford, okay, and then that fits. She would have been young enough. He's the older Asian guy, and like that fits. That would have been fine. It would probably been better than fine. I don't know what she was doing around then, but like.
You're taking this very personally.
I'm just saying, or, and I'm gonna be real, you can take the 2 people, and one of them is Julia Roberts, and with an Asian guy, she's already done a rom-com with him that was a huge hit, and although I'm
Pretty Woman with Richard Gere.
Yeah, yeah, and he's already the aging or George Clooney. Like, there's so like, no, I'm probably not gonna watch it because it's just it's one, I've heard it's not very good, and two, it would just ruin this movie.
All right, so yeah, overall I thought it was really solid rom com, very charming, funny moments throughout. Can't deny that Audrey Hepburn's absolute beauty. I thought it was really really good. I enjoyed it, but it's kind of only in like that four excellent range for me. I've deeply wounded Joey.
Okay, you're entitled to that opinion. 4 stars is a very, very solid rating. I disagree. I gave it 5 stars. And as we discussed at the opening, where I have put it at the number one movie of the year. Now that doesn't necessarily mean best in my ratings. It's the ones for enjoyment. So yeah, which is why that, as you like to keep calling it, that Vin Diesel movie is higher than some of these other movies we've watched, because those other movies are better. I just did not enjoy them.
All right.
So, but no, I just enjoyed everything about it. I was laughing the whole time. When Bogey was just like, "Oh damn, she got me. I got to go jump on this boat." I'm like, you know what? As much as I hate emotions, I could see my dumb ass being like, "Yep, let me just go jump on a boat to chase, a chick, much less Audrey Hepburn, because who wouldn't jump on a boat to chase Audrey Hepburn? Let's be real."
Mhm.
So, yeah, no, it's yeah, it was fantastic. If somehow you're like me and you had not seen this movie previously, I recommend that you stop whatever you're doing. Which obviously you're listening to us, so maybe finish listening to our podcast and then go watch Sabrina, because it's fantastic and I recommend it. Or if you have seen it, go rewatch it.
Very cool. All right. Got another classic movie to talk about, and this time it's from the one and only Orson Welles with his film Touch of Evil. Now, the tagline for this movie on the poster, you see up on IMDb or even Letterboxd, it says, "The strangest vengeance ever planned," which I see how that kind of makes sense, but it's kind of a stretch for what this movie is. I found a really good synopsis of this guy on Letterboxd, and it is: when a car bomb explodes on the American side of the U.S. and Mexico border, Mexican drug enforcement agent Miguel Vigueras begins his investigation along with American police captain Hank Quillen. When Vargas begins to suspect that Quillen and his shady partner Menzies are planting evidence to frame an innocent man, his investigations into their possible corruption quickly put himself and his new bride, Susan, in jeopardy. So that pretty much sums up the movie really well, kind of leading up to the end. So, Joey, how was Touch of Evil for you?
I mean, I really enjoyed it. I did not enjoy it quite as much as Sabrina, but I did enjoy it. It was very interesting seeing Charlton Heston there,
Browned up
in brown face.
Yeah, a little Mexicaned up. Yeah, that kind of bugged me as well. I've become.
But it was obviously a much different time. It's not something that would be done now, but
it's less noticeable with it being black and white. But man, you kind of give him a second look, and yeah, he's definitely made up to look more Mexican.
Yeah, and obviously, as we know, that Charlton Heston is white.
Yeah.
I mean,
damn dirty apes.
Or parting the Red Sea, or escaping from Alcatraz. Whatever else.
Yeah, I definitely wanted that point to come up because I'd watched another Orson Welles film lately where he did Othello, and he actually played Othello, which I had no idea coming in. And whenever I saw like The Moor of Venice, and then all of a sudden there's Orson Welles, and this darkened face with the black and white, gorgeous black and white cinematography. But nonetheless, there's Orson Welles, portraying a different race. It's just like, really, we couldn't have done better. I don't know.
I mean,
I've come a long way on this. I mean, you go back to like Lawrence of Arabia, and you have Obi-Wan Kenobi. What's his name?
Ewan McGregor? No, I mean I know that's not who we're looking for. It's Sir. Oh wow, why we're real bad at this?
Yeah, sometimes we. Why do we paint ourselves into corners with Oh, of course, instead of clicking the original Star Wars, I put the Phantom Menace.
Oh, right. So it's Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor
right.
in brown face. Jeez.
Alec Guinness.
Alec Guinness, yeah. He appears in Arab face and Lawrence of Arabia. Yeah, I've come a long way on different actors trying to be different races in movies. And I think it's a completely different deal, like whenever... like the story is meant to be a different race and the person just shows up as themselves and portrays it, like you had with like Doctor Strange or with Ghost in the Shell. But whenever it's like supposed to be another race and they show up there with like alterations to make them fit that, the more I've looked at it, the more it kind of bugs me. So
I mean, it definitely bugs me now because of like knowing how offensive it is and it being such a sensitive topic. Like, we have to, it's one of those things, like obviously it was offensive then and we know that, but it was one of those things that overall as a whole in our society in the 50s, or 40s and 30s, these movies, like it was okay. He put on some darker makeup to make him look Arabic or to make him look Mexican, and it was just generally accepted, even if it was wrong. So it's like, all right, Charlton Heston showed up. They're like, we're gonna do this, and he's like, okay, sure. I mean, it doesn't make it right. It's just, it's that thing like, all right, and it's just like you look back on it and you're just like, man, it really sucks. But as a thing, it's like.
And when I went to write my Othello review, I totally expected to go online and, see a bunch of scathing stuff about Orson Welles being in this darkened face. And a lot of the stuff said like he had like a tasteful bronzer on. I was like, really? I mean, that's a whole different attitude, with what we would probably see now. So I think, this topic's come a long way. All right. So did you see a version where it gave you a crawl at the beginning to talk about like how this film was restored?
No. Where did you watch it at?
I just had a DVD that I had laying around of it, and it basically had the scroll at the very top saying, like, Orson Welles shot it at this point, and the studio looked at it and wanted to make revisions, and then like Orson sent like this big memo to the studio about why he wanted it changed back, and then they said, to the best of our ability, this is the film that Orson wanted. So man, there's something about Orson Welles with the studio always wanting to tamper with his work.
No, but I mean, we just watched it on Prime, so I don't remember seeing anything like that at the beginning. No.
Okay. He got full range on, to make his masterpiece, Citizen Kane, and then after that, Magnificent Ambersons got tampered with, and a lot of his films got tampered with. So I guess it might have just been like his attitude against the studio, or just how he was doing things different back then. But yeah, it's crazy how the studio was always messing with his stuff. Now, I guess the biggest thing that stood out to me in this movie was, man, the camera work just is masterful. There's like so many cool like angles with this black and white photography, like throughout. Even shots of them like walking down the street are shot very, very interesting to keep you really engaged with the story. One of the things that stood out to me is like whenever they're like running at like the car after it exploded, there's even a little bit of shaky cam, but it's done like really to increase, the drama of that scene. So that was all really good. Vargas's wife, Susan, she's played by, we mentioned earlier, the lovely Janet Leigh, which you'd recognize from Psycho. Joey, I'm not sure if you looked at the cast list for this, but did you realize Orson Welles was an actor in this movie?
Yes, I did realize that he is Quinlan, and he's doing his part to be a training video for today's police officers. That's mostly a joke. Before anybody comes in and is like, "That's not how." It's mostly a joke. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't think he looked at all like Orson Welles, and I'm still doing double takes of. They must have been doing some. I don't know if there's like some prosthetics on his face or what, but he don't look a thing like Orson Welles. I guess I'm just so used to seeing Orson Welles with a beard whenever he got a little older that maybe he shaved it off and that's what he looked like. But yeah, I not until I looked at IMDb that I had any idea that was Orson Welles.
I mean, I didn't know immediately, but I was like, this could be Orson Welles, and then like part of the way through, we're like, oh yeah, this is Orson Welles. So, I mean, he played. I mean, the bad cop. I mean, very well. I mean, immediately he steps out of the car. He's spoken 2 lines. I was like, I don't like this motherfucker. It was like the first thing I said, like word for word. I was like, I do not like him. And then, sure enough, that statement was validated.
Yeah, it was a great way to begin the movie with the car bomb. And yeah, Vargas runs off to do that. And kind of his wife, Susan, kind of just gets, like left in the dust there. And she gets swept off by these like Mexican drug cartel members and harassed because apparently Vargas is like cracking down on like their business. So yeah, she gets she gets the short end of the straw like big time throughout this thing.
I believe it's Susie, not Susan.
Oh.
You have, and you definitely have Susie up here in the top. I'm pretty sure it's Susie.
Let me look back at the characters on. I have Susan on IMDb, so.
Maybe it is, but I could have sworn he called her Susie throughout that whole movie.
I mean, that's usually a pretty interchangeable name, but I don't know.
Oh, it is Susan Susie Vargas. Okay. All right. My bad. Continue.
One of the big aspects I've noticed of my taste in movies over the last couple of years is I'm really not into police procedurals, and that's a big aspect of this movie. So I think something that really kept me from really, really loving it is the fact that when it comes to police procedurals, I'm not really interested in figuring out the whodunits. Like, I'm just kind of there along for the ride. So, yeah, police procedurals really don't do it for me. But there's a lot of other stuff about this movie I really enjoyed. So, yeah, Susan, she gets swept off to this desert motel to get some rest while Vargas is on the case with this whole car bomb deal. Even though it happened on the U.S. side, he definitely wants to be a part of the investigation. And that night shift guy there at the motel, he was quite the flake.
Well, the night shift guy he wasn't the flake. It was the day shift guy was the flake. The night shift guy was very quirky.
I don't think there was a day shift guy.
The day shift guy never showed up. He was like, the day shift guy didn't show up, and they think I'm going to do this work. They got another thing coming. And then the day shift guy showed up, and it was the owner's nephews or whatever, because the owner was basically the gang leader, and so it was his boys, and they started doing all their shenanigans, which was a good portion of the movie. So
yep. And then let's see here. Then we kind of see what this movie's all about when Quinlan they finally track down this suspect, and they start questioning him in this hotel room. And you basically see that they plant evidence at the scene to frame this guy, and we kind of see that this whole car bombing thing was kind of a red herring, so to speak. And the real focus of this movie is actually on Quinlan and his corruption. And Vargas sees what's going on, and he vows to bring them to justice, pretty much.
Oh yeah, for sure, and he starts investigating quite heavily.
Although from what I recall at the end, don't they end up saying that the guy that they framed was responsible anyways? So
Yeah,
he admitted to it. But it's like, you question the same person enough times, or you use questionable tactics. Eventually, it's like, yes, I did it. Just quit freaking asking me. But I think the point in this movie was that yes, he actually did do it. And that Quinlan used shortcuts, but he always got the right guy. He just used shortcuts to do it, was kind of the thing. Like, was kind of the point that I picked up, because he always got the arrest, but he just kind of circumvented some of the red tape to get it.
Yeah. And Vargas is kind of on a mission to take him down. He goes all the way up to like the supervisors and, says, what he's up to. But Quinlan's got a lot of cop support around him, and a lot of the cops are just like, man, I wouldn't be anywhere without Quinlan. So he has a lot of support. I really appreciate
like a celebrity, because that's when he first shows up, they're like, oh, it's our celebrity police captain.
Oh. I really appreciated the scene. I guess it's when they're going down to the archives. I think I forgot to mention this in Sabrina. Did you notice? You notice in old movies, whenever like they're riding in a car, but the background looks real fake, it's because it's like rear projection.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the fact in Touch of Evil, like the scene where they're in the car, cruising. I think one of the scenes it might have been rear projection, but there was definitely one scene where like Vargas is like, gunning it in this car, and you could tell that they probably mounted a camera to the front of the car as they're cruising. And I thought that was a really great touch, because they're really rolling in that car. All right, so Vargas, he's going to track down Quinlan. He goes down to the archives to go, see if he can, find the evidence to prove his case. Meanwhile, poor Susan, she gets the raw end of the deal here. Basically, the Mexican cartel basically instantly take over this motel and harass her by banging on the walls and playing music so she can't sleep. And eventually, they drug and kidnap her, which is pretty nuts, especially for a movie from the 50s, I would say. And she ends up in this hotel room all drugged, and then the Mexican cartel leader, meets Quinlan up there. And this is after Quinlan knows that Vargas is after her. So I guess this is the whole revenge plot aspect. And so he ends up strangling the cartel guy with a rope, because apparently ropes don't show fingerprints or something like that. That doesn't sound right to me. I would think if you strangled someone with a wire, maybe you wouldn't have a fingerprint, but a rope, I don't know. You can check me on that.
I think maybe their technology they had then, maybe ropes wouldn't, but wire would show cuts on your hand probably. And since he had a farm, if he had rope burn or anything like that, wouldn't be suspicious, because But didn't he strangle him with? I thought he strangled him with a shirt or something. But
I look back at it and I'm pretty sure he had a rope, because at first I thought it was a wire, because this whole fingerprint deal was kind of swirling in my mind of exactly what the heck that was all about. What did you think of Quinlan's presence throughout it? I mean, he's a huge guy. I mean, it's kind of staggering that Orson Welles was such a big guy, back in the late 50s.
Oh yeah, no, he definitely had a really a humongous presence as far as his stature, and then just when he talked, he demanded as a character, I'm Quinlan, you're gonna listen to me. And people did, and you really would believe that, people listened to him, and it kind of showed that, especially in that small town, that border town, he was a cop, and he was a higher up cop, and people were just like, yeah, I'll do whatever you say just because you're the police, and you're a powerful police kind of thing, and that I think that really showed through. I assume that's what they were shooting for, but that's definitely how I took it. So.
But he messes up. He loses his cane at the scene of the crime. So I think that's the main reason why his partner decides to start helping Vargas. Man, the shadows in this are fantastic. There's a scene where Vargas goes to the motel to figure out what happened to Susan, and man, the shadows there are just fantastic. As he's talking to the flaky guy who is like, I don't know where they're at, and then, oh, that's the only one that's being rented, and yeah, he's all over the place. Pretty crazy to see that Susan gets locked up for like being framed for this drug cartel's leader or murder, as she is, obviously just totally doped out of her mind, which is pretty crazy to see in this movie.
Yeah, but I mean, they like almost instantly also let her go. Like, 'cause they like, I don't remember how, but like they're like, oh yeah, I guess they tested her or something, and they're like,
And
yeah.
But I'm even skipping the part where I think he goes back, like after he sees that she's not at the motel, he like storms back into town, and he like he's like seriously raging. I think he goes into a bar and starts beating people up, being like, "Where's Susan?" And finds out that she's locked up. And then after finding that out, he links up with Quinlan's partner, which I think we mentioned that earlier in the review. Menzies. He links up with them, and Menzies agrees to wear a wire, and to get Quinlan's confession.
Yeah, that wire is much different than you see on wires in movies today.
Yeah, they have to be within a certain distance, and there's all these like interruptions, and yeah, I love the climax where Quinlan comes stumbling drunk out of this brothel, I guess it is, and Vargas is having to follow a close range away in order to get the recording. And despite being drunk, Quinlan is kind of still playing everything very close to the vest, even with his buddy Menzies. Eventually Quinlan catches on to the fact that he's being followed because he can hear his voice echoing on the water under the bridge. Man, some of those shots, like the Dutch angles shooting up at all this, it's just set up so beautifully. You want anything to say about the climax here?
I mean, the whole climax was really good. Like you said, there was some really good shots. And then like how the whole echoing, because the machine was so close. And then he gets real suspicious, and he ends up shooting Menzies.
Actually, Menzies shoots him, or Menzies shoots Quillen, and because Quillen's about to shoot Vargas. Menzies shoots Quillen, and then Quillen turns around and shoots Menzies. So it's kind of the two partners taking each other out.
I thought Vargas had shot him first. That's my bad.
Oh, no worries. I mean, a lot going on at the end of this movie.
And then he stumbles down to the waterbed or the waterfront, and
it kind of floats off.
Well, yeah. Well, he's got his gun or something pulled on Vargas, right? And then Quinlan shoots him from the bridge in the back.
Menzies does.
Yeah, Menzies shoots Quinlan in the back.
We'll get it eventually.
Yeah. Well, it's
and then pretty much Vargas, he goes up to his Susan's up in the car, and they embrace. She's free, and it's all over. One aspect
the prosecutor's there, and he's like, yeah, get an ambulance, and we've got it all recorded, and yep.
One aspect that's kind of eluding me is the whole idea of Tanya. So like Tanya's like Quinley's like bestie at the brothel. Like she she talks to him. In the Wikipedia synopsis, like they made a focus on the fact that she was surprised that he had gained so much weight. There's this part where like she gives him a tarot card reading and says like he has no future. And there's a lot of emphasis there on Tanya throughout. And I couldn't quite place like maybe she's just like this person behind Quinley and all of this. But she and the film ends on her like walking away, and I think she says like, what is a man, or she has some kind of grand statement at the end. Any thoughts on Tanya? Did she stand out to you at all?
I mean, she's definitely seems like, I guess after Quinlan's, wife had died or whatever, I guess he, had become an alcoholic, and then spent a lot of time at her establishment.
Probably.
And I guess she ran the establishment, so I guess maybe she was not a hooker, but I guess was the madam or whatever, and so I guess maybe he kept her from getting busted or something, and so they had become more than, I guess maybe they had more than a business arrangement, I guess, and
perhaps.
I guess the tarot reading was after we already knew that Homeboy was going to wear the wire, right? Wasn't that when that was, or like right before? And
I'd have to go back and look, but I kind of got the sense it happened right before, right as he was getting drunk, right before Menzies hooked up with him. And the exact reading of the final lines Tanya says is, "He was some kind of man. What does it matter what you say about people?" So I guess that kind of hints at the theme of does a man taking shortcuts like later in life, does that really wipe away the fact that he was a great man leading up to it? So I guess that's a pretty predominant theme of Quinlan, and I guess his fall into being more corrupt.
Yeah, and obviously the murder is super corrupt, but I remember definitely picking up that he always because he always said, "Oh, my leg, it tells me when someone, I go by my gut and his leg, and this guy did it." So how many times did he know that the guy did it, but he didn't have the evidence, so he forced the evidence, and the person actually did it. He always said, he says we always get the confession. So, it's like if the theme is we always got the right guy, but they just got the right guy through nefarious means, does that make it right? Kind of thing. And there'd be some people, well, they got a criminal off the streets, but yes, but he had to plant that dynamite there that he had bought personally to make it happen.
Kind of hints back to the title, just a touch of evil, right?
Yeah, just a touch of evil.
Yeah,
and
I think.
But that touch of evil, all it took was someone else seeing it and doing the right thing to expose it, because like Menzies was always the one who found it and made the arrest, and he was always like, "Oh yeah, no, Quinlan's so great, he always knows where to find the stuff." But and then when someone like showed it to him, he was like, "Oh yeah, no, you're right, I guess." And then so.
Indeed. Yeah, I think for being a 1950s movie, it's pretty risque, which, I'm sorry. I think for this being a film from the 1950s, this is fairly risque, which is probably why the studio chomped down into it. The investigation part of the story, not really my favorite, but gosh, it's a really great looking film. Can you agree with that?
Oh yeah, it definitely had a lot of great scenes and that kind of stuff throughout the movie.
I really like the climax as well. So yeah, I would say for me, this is another solid 4-star movie.
Yeah, I gave it the same.
Awesome, possum. Well, we are making great time tonight, Joey. So yeah, let's get into what we are into next as the Average Joe's Movie Club cast moves on to our episode on movies featuring one of our favorite actors. And if all goes well, we should have a special guest joining us for this. So stay tuned for that. What is your movie that we'll be watching that has one of your favorite actors, Joey?
We're going to do Blue Valentine, which stars my favorite actor for that movie would be Mr. Ryan Gosling.
Haven't seen that. I've always heard that it's like super, super sad. So I've always kind of kept my distance. But this will give me the perfect excuse to finally check it out. And as I had mentioned in my quote earlier, one of my favorite actors is good old Jake Gyllenhaal, right?
Yes.
And the movie we're going to be watching from him, it's very close to me. Great movie from a few years ago, Nightcrawler from Jake Gyllenhaal. Fantastic performance in that. So looking forward to that.
So 2 I have not seen, so I'm looking forward to.
You hadn't seen Nightcrawler?
No, I have not. Yeah.
Awesome.
I think this year a lot more movies on the higher end of the spectrum in my ratings than last year. So we have like half the movies because we're doing like half the episodes. But hey, it's I think we've just done a lot more, I guess, in my general wheelhouse. So
there you go. All right, so thanks so much, everyone, for following the show. If you'd like to join the movie club, make sure to hit subscribe, hit that bell notification on YouTube, or leave a review. We would love to hear from you, as always. And we hopefully by the next time we podcast, we'll have over 1,000 subscribers. Fingers crossed. Did I say 1,000? I meant 100. 100 subscribers. I can't wait till 1,000. That'd be great too.
I mean, yes, if by some miracle we go from 97 to 1,000 in like 2 weeks, that would be bombastic. Please spread the word. Yeah, I don't think we would know what to do with ourselves. We'd be over the moon. But we'll take 3 more in a couple of weeks to get to a hundo. That would be fantastic.
That'd be very gratifying.
If you would like for us to answer a question on the show, please just send it to the Average Joe's Movie Clubcast at gmail.com, or you can go to our Facebook page. There's a button that will do it for you. You can go to any one of our reviews on Letterboxd, leave it there. If you're friends with us on Facebook, you can just message it to us or anything like that. We love questions. You can get us thinking outside of our normal box or anything like that. It would be much appreciated.
Yep, should be a good one. Next episode should be a special guest watching Nightcrawler and Blue Valentine. So, Joey, why do we do this show?
Because we love talking about movies.
Good night.
Bye.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
Only about your feeling. Spirit is something. I think this just might be my masterpiece.